Congratulations.
Welcome, everyone. This is ACDC, Araceli and Colette, the Dynamic Change. And my name is Araceli, and I'm a transition wealth advisor. And as you know, I work with single professional women to rearrange their finances so they can get ahead of the game, retire faster and pay the debt quicker. And I'm here with Colette, and we have a very special guest today that Colette is going to introduce. Colette, can you tell us who you are and introduce our guest?
Of course I can. Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rabba, and I am a real estate broker in Mississauga, GTA, really. GTA West is where I like to work, residential homes. And I specialize in income properties and first-time home buyers. And one of my favorite demographics, people who want to retire and get out of the city. And that's why we really wanted to have Marilyn on today. So I want to introduce Marilyn Hintsa. She is a retirement coach because I thought, what is that? What does that mean? So I thought we can all learn together. So welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yay!
Yeah, can you tell us who you are? Give us a kind of like a 60-second introduction of what you do.
So as Colette said, my name is Marilyn Hintsa, and I am the creator of the You Lead You post-career pathing approach to retirement planning. And when I say retirement planning, I don't mean the financial aspects. I mean all of those other things you need to think about, including lifestyle, but also how you're going to live your life when you're in retirement, how you're going to be engaged, how you're going to avoid boredom, all of that kind of stuff. So that's me.
Yeah. I think that's really important because a lot of people don't realize that. And yeah, I don't know, you probably know the statistics of people who actually retire and they don't have their normal day-to-day going to the work and coming home and stuff like that, and a routine, and they really don't know what to do with themselves. Do you see that very often?
Oh God, I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but the transition into retirement is one of the top 10 stressors that we face in our lives.
Right.
And you can see why, because especially if you're somebody who's been successful and you've been striving for most of your adult life in your career, and all of a sudden you go from 100 miles an hour to 0, like that's stressful. That's a humongous change in your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, the stories that I hear as well from people who are retiring, and then they have adult kids that think that they, from this whole, without having a plan in place, they sell their family home that is way too big for them. They move into a condo. They don't realize they hate condo living, but then also the financial thing that kicks in is that the kids think, okay, well, now you have this great windfall when you sold your house. We want some money, and we want you to help us either buy a property or do something else with the money. And this is the thing that if you don't have a plan, like same thing with the financial plan, if you don't have a plan in place, just the plan B is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
First of all, you have your plan, but then if you don't like the condo, what's a plan B? Or if you have a plan, like let's say, do you help people go through a process of saying, could they live in a smaller property?
Sure, a smaller property or a smaller community, because I mean, people are also moving out of town, right?
Right.
Yeah. So when I talk about thinking about your life in retirement, a big part of that is where are you going to spend it? And if you say, oh, I really want to move to a smaller community, or I want to move into a condo downtown or whatever, I would say, well, okay, have you ever lived in a smaller community?
Right.
Have you ever lived in a condo?
Are you moving away from your family? Are you moving
Exactly
away from your friends? From your, like, that's the thing. I have one girlfriend who's very, very active in her townhouse complex. And, people know her, and she's out on her porch, and everybody says hi to her. And then she's thinking about moving out of town, like really to a smaller community too. And I tell her, like,
that might not work, right?
Yeah.
So this is when I do financial planning with my clients, that is a big problem, because when I ask them, can you imagine yourself being retired? And it says, well, no, really. They don't really have a plan of transition, right? And this is basically what I help them with, because the important part is what kind of lifestyle are they going to have, or they want to have to change, right? Because some people are very active when they are working, but now they want to completely switch to something that is non-related, or
Well,
the
but
activity is not as much, right?
also mentally, I think that is one of the kickers that we all, I think the similarity between Marilyn and Araceli is transition. You're doing quite a big transition in your life. So when you think about it that way, and you can't imagine what people have a hard time. Even
Yeah.
when I show them a house and I go, "Can you imagine yourself living here?" And they go, I don't know. Like it takes you a little bit of time to think it through and to set up a plan and to say, "Yes, this is exactly what I want and I can see myself living there." I think this is a bigger picture with a retirement plan to say, okay, first of all, I have to come up with something. Can I handle it? Who's going to come with me? That's the other thing too. Who wants to go with me? Do my friends want to move into the same little place, or what's going to happen? You're going to be, if that's the plan, if you want to move outside of your community. But there's nothing to say to stop you from, I have this big house, sell it, and then I'm sure there's condos around within the same area that you could just go into a smaller property or a smaller townhouse or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting. I'm working with a client, a woman, and she retires at the end of January or at the end of this year. Okay. And when we started working together, which was only in July, retirement for her was a black hole. Like she had no idea what the heck was going to happen. And so just yesterday I met with her, and all of a sudden it's not a black hole anymore because of the work we've done. She has an idea of how she's going to spend her time. She can take a week and say, I'm going to do this in a week. So
how long, like a typical client, how long do you work with someone till you see that they're ready to actually make the plan, or to say, okay, I've put together a plan? How long does that roughly take?
So it really depends on the client and the person. So this person I'm talking about, she was really motivated to do the work in between the sessions. We met every other week, more or less, and she did a lot of reading because there's some fantastic books out there on this subject to help. Yeah. She did a lot of reading. I gave her exercises to do, planning type exercises that would expand her thinking, expand her mind. And so she, I think, has come a remarkably long way, given how few the times are that we've met. She's come a long ways.
Yeah, she sounds like
she did the work in between. But somebody who's not so motivated to do the work in between, it's going to take a bit longer.
Right.
So first, Marilyn, how soon somebody should engage you to kind of start planning for activities, how to transition? Is it too soon, like 2 years, 1 year? What do you think is the recommended time?
I think 5 years.
Wow.
Or even 10 years. And the reason I say that is that it's never too early. It's also never too late, right? But for me, 5 years, 3 to 5 years is kind of a magic time, because as humans, we can think that far ahead.
Yeah.
If we get to 10 years, it gets harder and harder to even imagine anything that far ahead. And if you give yourself 3 to 5 years, what that does is it also changes your perspective while you're still working. Because now retirement's not a black hole. It's something that looks interesting and exciting. And so you're ready to perhaps start winding down, or even winding up, to make sure that your legacy in your career is exactly what you want it to be.
Exactly. And that also gives them the opportunity to see if their finances are aligned with the lifestyle that they want to have. They might not have enough for the lifestyle that they want, because the majority of people think that they spend less money in retirement. That's normally what it's supposed to be in a retirement planning. But nowadays it's not that anymore, because people are still having mortgages to pay when they're retired. They still have children living with them. They still have cars and all those expenses that should have been gone by retirement, and they're still there. So I think that's a great opportunity to kind of align the lifestyle that you want to transition into with whatever planning financially you've done, and see if those two are aligned. So I think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you find out that, maybe you need to keep working at something, after you've left your primary career, then that's sort of a jumping off point to, okay, well, what do I want that to look like? And wouldn't it be nice if that was something I really love doing?
Right. And then they can even start. So let's say they want to be a sole proprietor and, bake bread or something. So that you can even start in a part-time basis sort of thing to
Mhm.
get your name out there, to do all of that kind of secondary work. That's a great idea to say, okay,
Mhm.
I do want to try and have my little side business, my dream business that I always
Yeah.
wanted to do. And it can be on a smaller scale that you don't have to kill yourself,
Yeah.
24/7 being a sole proprietor. You're retired or semi-retired, if you want to call it
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and start the business while you're still working to see if you really even like it.
Well,
You
and
know,
I think that applies to so many things. I mean, a lot
yeah,
of people, when they're busy and they're really career oriented, their friends and family will say, boy, you're going to have to find some hobbies when you retire,
right,
because
right.
you're not going to be doing this. And
Yeah.
most people kind of go, oh, hobbies.
Yeah, but traveling can be a hobby.
Well, no, of
You have
course,
to,
but
like,
what you're saying,
it
as far
yeah,
as testing on the job market or the
of
work market,
course.
applies also to the hobby market. Try
Yeah,
some things that you
absolutely.
think you might like.
Yeah, or even staying within, I've heard people that stay with the same company, but in a lesser role. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
they take
Yeah.
on whoever's going to replace them and they train them, or they sort of, go through that mentorship, if you want to
Yeah,
call it that.
sometimes
Yeah.
they stayed as consultants, that they don't
Right.
have to be there full time, but they come in like once a month, or just kind of put things in place so they can train somebody else.
Yeah.
And they can do it as a transition as well, because it's not so, okay, I'm gone tomorrow,
Right.
right? And they can
Right.
continue on and, developing, stay with the same friendships, the same. I think the social environment is what people need to be focusing more on, what they
Absolutely.
want to do when it comes down to friends, so another social circle, like if you are involved in golf or anything like that, plus where you want to live. I think this is a big thing, because if you're going to be moving far away, now your friends are not there. So how are you going to keep in touch? All those
Yeah.
kind of things, they need to be, said and talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I
For
have a
sure.
question, Marilyn.
Yeah.
What do you find when you get a client that is ready or thinking of retiring and they want to put a plan together? What is their biggest fear with that?
Boredom.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. I can see
And
that. I can see that.
and I say that because I don't think that people necessarily can articulate what the other losses are when you retire. So they think boredom because they can't imagine not having all that work stuff to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that the other things that happen is you lose your routine. You lose your day-to-day contact with all your work colleagues. Suddenly
Right.
it's just you and your family. You lose intellectual stimulation.
Right.
You lose potentially a sense of identity if you've identified with your work all this time. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
lose purpose. And all of those things are huge. But the first thing that comes to mind is, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I see that quite often. And it's
Mm.
also so what happens with me in the real estate field too, I have not just buying and selling, but I also have leases. So I'm coming across quite a few actually, just this year, where people have sold their house because they know it's like this huge amount of money that they're taking advantage of the market right now. They're selling, and then they have nowhere. They haven't thought it through to say, okay, I can't actually afford to buy anything that is suitable for me in the GTA because there's just not a lot of inventory. But also, I don't know what I want to do. So they want to rent for a time and then figure it out, and then maybe buy them a year or so to actually figure out, do I like renting or do I want to buy or whatever it is. So I look at these people as they are in transition, like they're the people that are in transition. But the bad thing is, they don't qualify because they've already retired and they have no income. So even getting a rental these days is very, very difficult. So that should go in the plan to
Yeah,
say,
absolutely.
how hard is it for me to rent a property? Should I rent it before I actually put my house on the market? Or should I see what's out there? Like, these are the things, like, you got to be 2 steps ahead of yourself sometimes to
Absolutely.
know.
And
Yeah,
you
to
see, this
get
is one of the
alleviate
things,
fear.
yeah, now that we're like, all of us are going to transition because of the pandemic, right? That I think that was a big wake-up call for everybody. But the big thing to me is like a plan it's always there to kind of, okay, so what happens if you can have a few options, right? And that's what I'm a big planner. Like I advocate for any type of planning, whether it's financial planning, retirement planning, even a vacation planning. Like do it because it's going to save you a ton of time and money. Remember, everything touches money. And whatever you decide to do with your life, that is going to be decided as well, right, by your finances. So these two really come hand in hand. And I think what you're doing right now is something that is needed a lot, for sure.
Yeah, that's, you know, what you say is really interesting, Araceli, because by having a plan, the other thing that happens to a lot of people as they get older, and it happened to me, is they get unexpectedly early retired from their job, and they don't see it coming. And all of a sudden they're like, whoa. And sometimes they get support by being sent to an outplacement firm or something like the transition firm. But even then, they haven't done that personal planning yet. So they're really, really derailed by a circumstance like that. And in my case, I was really lucky because a couple of years before this happened, I went to my financial planner and I said, I want to do that projection, you know, that really long-term projection and see what I've got, right?
Yeah.
And I had been thinking about coaching for a really long time. And I knew that I wanted that to be my post-career career. So
Excellent.
when it happened, it took me about 24 hours to go, wow, this is an amazing opportunity.
So I guess I was going to ask you the question, how did you find your way to what you're doing now? What was your career before? What were you doing?
I was a regional VP of marketing communications for a global insurance broker.
Wow.
And I had been there for a decade and a half. So a long time.
Yeah.
And I thought I would retire out of that job. That was kind of my plan. And instead I was early retired out of it.
Yeah.
But the coaching thing, it started out as I thought I wanted to be an executive coach. And so I went and did my coach training. And as I got through it further and further, I thought, no, you know, I really want to work with people who are going through the same transition I just went through. Because I think that through my life, I've become good at pivoting when things happen. And because I've got that experience.
And that is a skill, for sure. It's a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also you can relate. Like, this is why Araceli has her demographic. That's why I have my demographic, because we've gone through it ourselves. And I think that life skill, or, you know, that life experience is very, very important to people because you have actually done it. It's almost like, can you imagine buying a house from someone who's never bought a house and never felt the fear and the anxiety and how do I do this and which step do I do first? Like, it only makes sense that you would be somebody that has already gone through it yourself. And that way you can talk from that experience. And it's very personal, and it's very, I think that's the thing that makes us different, is that we actually can relate on a very, you know, this is me, you are me, right? Yeah, that's
I'm
great.
also somebody who is always looking forward to retiring.
Well, that's what Araceli and I, like, we both are like, oh, you know what I want to do? Like, you just, you know, as friends, you talk to each other, especially women too. It's like, we've done a show. I don't know if you saw the one about the Golden Girls kind of scenario, home sharing.
Oh, that was going to be my next one I watched.
Yeah, so watch that. So, like, this is the thing. I have girlfriends that are very close to me, and they're like, okay, so how old do we have to be? Like, can we all live together? How would we do it? And, you know, so we joke about that, but it's such a real thing.
Yeah,
like, even though it might be hopefully way in the future, but that's the thing that we look forward to, is like, oh my God, how fun would that be?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And the thing is, now more than ever, there's so many single women out there that are, you know, in the late 40s, 50s, and that they don't plan to get married. So we all need some kind of community companionship, right? And if you have decided not to, you never know, you know, usually by the statistics, at least by the insurance statistics, men die sooner than women.
True enough.
Yeah, and we're all living longer though too.
I think that I wanted to mention, because as part of retirement planning, you know, you may make some plans with your partner, but what happens if that partner is gone? How are you going to transition from that as well, right? So I think that that is also something that people need to think about. I know this is not a pleasant thing to do, but you have to be prepared.
Well, maybe for some people who've been married for a really long time.
Exactly.
Oops, did I say that? No, but that's the thing. Like in all jest, it's really about planning. This is all that we're talking about, is something that and this is so Araceli, she has her favorite saying. My favorite saying is knowledge is power. So you don't know what you don't know. So might as well talk to Marilyn about the process, and to say, this is what I am, like what you were saying about your first client, or the client that you were mentioning, that it's like a black hole that you don't know where to start. You just don't want to free fall and not have that kind of soft landing at the bottom. So like that's what Marilyn does. She helps you land softly.
That's the idea, and make the transition smooth instead of bumpy.
Right. And we all want to enjoy our retirement. Like, this is exciting. You should be excited. You should be looking forward to it. But I know it's daunting. It's how do you not just manage your finances, but moving forward? I have plans. I want to do that. How am I going to leave my house, or how am I going to, what's going to happen here? So all these things, hopefully COVID will be over by then.
Hopefully, yeah. So Marilyn, how long do you typically work with a client when you first engage them and they say, yeah, we want to work with you? Do you have a program? Do you have a time frame? How do you work with them?
So I generally start out with a 6-hour engagement that would extend over 3 months.
Okay, so not 6 hours in one shot.
No. That's way too overwhelming.
Yeah, it is, of course.
So, and some clients like to meet for half an hour each time, and other people want to meet for an hour. So if it was a half hour every 2 weeks, then it's going to go over 12 weeks, right?
Okay.
So, it just depends on the client's need. And in terms of, do I have a process? Yes, I have a process, but my process is not so different than the process I would use if I was coaching someone in any transition, because the considerations are really the same, right? So there's no magic in this transition other than being aware of what's coming, being aware of yourself, and then experimenting with how you want the future to be.
Well, and I think ultimately too, I know, we're talking about let's say 50 plus or even 60 plus. A lot of people, including myself, I don't like asking for help. So I think this is the one thing that Marilyn is the first kind of, gatekeeper of all the other people that are standing behind her. So if you need special help with X, Y, and Z, other things in your life, then Marilyn, I'm sure you have contacts to offer. And do you
I do.
you do that?
And now 2 more.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's it, because really it's about thinking about you as one person, but there are so many people behind you. And same thing with me, same thing with Araceli. It's a team of people that will help you. I have stagers, I have people that do things that you might never even see, admin people, all that stuff, because you can't just think of yourself to say, I'm retiring, but I can't do this alone. And you don't have to.
Yeah.
So that's something that Marilyn will help you through.
Yeah, exactly.
And have fun doing it, I hope, too.
Oh, I hope it's fun. I mean, and the thing to understand about coaches that many people don't is that we're not advisors and we're not consultants. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's all up to me. What I do is I ask you questions that help you understand what you want to do.
Yes.
So there's no strict formula to this. There's not the thing you have to do. It's what you want to do in this time in your life when you're going to be as free as you've probably ever been.
Probably, yeah, because you're still an adult. Hopefully you're still in good health too, that you can actually enjoy yourself. But that's the one thing that I find too, working with clients, that you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what to ask. It's offering options. And I see so many people in my industry as well. And I know Araceli does too. And Marilyn, I don't know if you have researched other people that do what you do, but they don't give options. They don't offer options or the options that may work for them. Because if let's say in my case, if I send a home buyer into a house that needs like $100,000 worth of renos, but I know they have no inclination, they want a ready to go house. I'm not going to give them that option, But if I say to my client, hey, listen, why don't you make it into what you want? You have the money, it's a cheaper price, whatever it is. That's an option in that sense, but you have to know that they're willing to open their eyes to it.
Yeah.
So you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely. And that's what getting to know your client is very important, right? In the long term. And also for people that are afraid to talk to people, it only takes you like 30 minutes to have a little consultation that it might really save your life, believe me,
Right.
because you really need professionals that are doing this day in and day out that can give you that option. Oh, I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could do this. Because I've seen so many people that sometimes they come and engage me when they are in such a bad situation that
It's too late.
that it's just, no matter what I
maybe-
do, it's not going to help them. So don't
Right.
leave it. Sometimes it's just, you got to be a little proactive. And I think that this era in particular, because now we used to have jobs, but they were there for 25, 30 years, you retire.
Yeah.
We don't have those anymore.
No.
Every
No.
5 to 7 years, it's, statistically, people are changing jobs, whether it's they get retire because of the company, right? They are downsizing, upsizing, whatever, or they just find another job themselves, right? So
Yeah.
that this economy tab, now you are responsible for your retirement, for the options that you have at the end. And if you don't plan, and I think that's why the lack of education is coming from, because it was, thought, and people thought that the company was going to take care of you after.
Right.
And
Or
it's
we just
not there
don't,
anymore. Yeah.
or we just don't think that far ahead, like
Yeah.
Marilyn was saying, like,
Well, it looks like it's that far ahead, but
yeah.
it's not
Well, we
that
know
far
it's-
ahead, right?
like, yeah, we know it's coming. So how do we prepare for it? So Marilyn, do you offer, what's your process? Do people call you and then do you offer like a consultation first, a free consultation, or how does it work?
Yeah. So, an important thing in coaching is to have a fit between the coach and the client.
Sure.
Because if there isn't a good fit, it's not going to work.
Of course.
So the initial conversation is really to assess fit from both sides, but also to explore what the issues are for the client and how I might approach that. And, even if it seems like there's not a good fit, I would never send somebody away without giving them some help. And even if that's a really great book list and some ideas about where else they can get the assistance that they're looking for, that initial consultation will be hopefully of value regardless of where it goes.
And
for both of us, frankly.
I'm assuming you're doing them through Zoom still, like now, or
Yes.
are you ever meeting in person or no?
Not yet. And it's not a hesitation about meeting in person, but I live in Midtown Toronto. Not everybody does. And so that whole idea of having to travel either person a long distance seems kind of silly now that we're so accustomed to Zoom.
Absolutely. No. And if you're like, this is the interesting thing too that I find with people. If I'm sitting in my office and you ask me a question, oh, can you look up whatever? I have my computer in front of me.
Right.
I have my paper files in front of me. I can I'd much rather be in my office. It's a mess. I don't want you to see it in person. But if we do that, this is perfect. This is great.
Yeah.
So no, I'm right there with you. Well, that's wonderful.
The world
so
is changing.
Do you have something to offer our viewers? I think we
I would be happy to send out just a 2-pager that talks a little bit in more detail about what I do. If I don't know how to leave it. Should I leave an email, just verbalize it?
No, don't worry about it. I think
you'll figure it out.
All of that information is in the chat. So the description is there. So you don't have to worry about it. But if you do want to know what Marilyn offers and more about it, please contact her. Download or how do they download it?
If they send me an email, I will send it to them. They can also check me out on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of stuff I've posted there that might be of interest to them from a blog standpoint. And
I think that is a great place to start if you are thinking about, I don't know what I'm going to do when I retire. I have no plan whatsoever. Maybe their circumstance change. Sometimes, as I said, the loss of a spouse is a big transition for many people, and they just feel lost because they used to do a lot of activities together. So that could be a really good fit as well for Marilyn. And if at any point in time you just want to know what options are there, right? Like maybe you just want to have some ideas, then contact Marilyn. I'm sure she'll take care of you, and at least you have some great information to start with, right?
And
Yes, I'm
maybe
happy to hear from all of you.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe we can even do like a little workshop, so we can do more of a recording, a longer recording that you'll get to talk and tell the whole story. So this is just
We can plan that, so for sure.
Yeah,
yeah. But
absolutely.
anyway, we'll
well,
see.
and we could
see.
maybe go through a little coaching session and just see how that plays out.
Yeah, just to have a little taste, right? That's great.
Yeah, because I think that's the thing too. People want to know what it's going to be like. How do you manage it? So, no, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us today. I think that was really, really cool.
Yeah,
so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Hey.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Marilyn. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the viewers will have something new to look at that is related to their transition. And remember to plan financially as well, because that whatever you want to do in retirement, it's going to need some money. So we will see you next time. Thank you, Marilyn, again. And thank you, Colette. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, ladies, and thanks, viewers. Have a great day.